Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us on The Record.
It's a pleasure.
I want to ask you to walk us through what exactly is the Trump doctrine in the Middle East.
So President Trump brilliantly said, look, I'm not going to lose any more American lives. We've been there. I'm not going to take over any more countries and try and teach them the colonial method. It never worked. So we'll worry about counterterrorism. We'll cooperate with our neighbors, and that's it. And that's basically what he's done. Israel, a different story. Israel is a valued ally. We subsidize them $4 or $5 billion a year. It has a special place in America's heart. And we're living with the confusion of what's happening in this transition. So it's complicated. It's a really difficult zip code.
What's the end game?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask that because I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. Look, the end game, when we say peace, it's an illusion. There's never been peace. There will probably never be peace because everybody's fighting for legitimacy. So people say, well, they're fighting over borders and boundaries. It's not what they're fighting over. A border or boundary is the currency of a negotiation. The end result is somebody wants dominance, which means somebody has to submit. In that part of the world, submit, there's no Arabic word for submit. They can't wrap their head around submit. So eventually, prosperity is the only answer.
When you take a step back and you look at the support that the United States has traditionally had for Israel, even within the president's own party, he's losing support on that issue. Do you see that America's policy could change as a result of that?
Look, I think President Trump has something in mind. And it's hard for the world to accept. Just that death on any basis is unsettling. Whether Gaza is happening as a result of Hamas taking 2 million people hostage, which it is, and those deaths of children and women and fighters as a result of that, or Israel being overly aggressive, it doesn't matter. It's got to end.
But many would say by refusing to endorse a ceasefire in Gaza, the United States is helping that situation.
I think there's been 27 ceasefires. None of them work. Ceasefire is not going to work.
What did you make of Hezbollah reaching out to Saudi Arabia? Do you think anything will come of that?
No, I think it's a joke. I think they're just trying to unsettle. They're groping, right? Our counterterrorism group, by the way, not just President Trump, but all the, Secretary Rubio is an unbelievable set of hands. And we have in the Department of War, counterterrorism, the Department of State, we have lots of resources. Those resources with Saudi, everybody pointing to the Abraham Accords. Well, maybe it's not the Abraham Accords, maybe it's the Solomon Accords. But eventually, it's not the road to Damascus, it's the road to Jerusalem. And Saudi Arabia understands that. So the UAE went there early, it has a smaller population. You know, Saudi Arabia has 30 million Muslims a year that come into Mecca and Medina. They have a very conservative base, they have to go a little slower. So at the end of Gaza, I think you'll see Saudi pointing to alignment. Everybody has to get in alignment. We have to bring Israel back to the middle and Saudi back to the middle. But in the midst of the confusion in Qatar, of all our valued allies saying, wow, we always knew how aggressive Israel was, but does this mean that the U.S. is no longer a security guarantor for us? So
Does it?
No, it doesn't. Look, it was not good. Qatar has been a great and valued ally to us since day one. Sheikh Tamim, Sheikh Mohammed, every time we've asked them to do something, and it gets confused, right? In America, saying, well, they house the Hamas, they house the Taliban. They did it at our request. If we didn't have some conduit to be able to speak to them, we would never get there.
So Israel taking that action without asking permission, they didn't ask permission of the United States. Was that an overstep?
Not within my job description to give that point of view, but I'll give you my personal point of view. And I know because I deal with them every day. And I don't agree with a lot of things that they do, but I respect them meaning the Israelis, because they tell you exactly what's going to happen.
But they didn't tell us.
In general, after October 7th, everything has changed in the Middle East, everything. And Bibi Netanyahu will tell you, he's not concerned about borders. He's not concerned about the red line, the blue line, the green line. If he feels that his borders or his people are being threatened, he will go anywhere and do anything. Full stop. So everybody's on notice that this is going to happen. So what's happening is that the Palestinian situation, since the early 1900s has been this quagmire of everybody trying to figure out, what is this? Why won't the Arabs take them? Why won't Egypt take them? Why won't Saudi Arabia take them? Why won't anybody take them? It's a real quandary. So,
because they want to stay on their land. That's why people won't take them.
So this idea of everybody staying on their own land could go on forever, which really has nothing to do, honestly, in my humble opinion, it's not about the land, it's about legitimacy. It's about relevance. You're taking away their identity, and that's not a good way to negotiate with anybody, because it is about their own relevance. It's not about a line, it's not about the Golan Heights, it's not about Gaza, which is a horrible, horrible place in the first place for them to try and survive, or the West Bank.
But if you don't agree with the policy, what are you doing in the job?
I do agree with the policy. The president's policy?
You agree with what's happening in Gaza?
Personally, I hate what's happening in Gaza on all sides. For the Palestinians, for the Israelis, for the Jordanians, for the Lebanese, for the Syrians, for the Turks. In my job description, it's a mess.
You have Keir Starmer recognizing a Palestinian state. You have Emmanuel Macron threatening to do the same, Australia, et cetera. There seems to be a shift happening. In your mind, is this anything more than window dressing? Are these statements at the UN about a Palestinian state helping or hurting?
In my estimation, they're good. It's nice to see the United Nations, any of them doing anything. That's an accomplishment, because usually they don't. But I think it's useless, and it doesn't help.
Tell me, how do you view the situation in Lebanon today?
So the situation in Lebanon is really difficult, right? In that they've been through, since 1976, they've been through a civil war, they've been through a war with Israel, they've been through a war with Syria, they've been through 20 different ceasefires between Hezbollah and Israel, and they've had 5 decades of the most avid corruption in any governing entity that you could imagine. Now you have a good group in place now. I think well-meaning, in my opinion, well-meaning and not of that ilk. But you have a bankrupt central bank. You have a banking system that has a $70 billion hole. You have no electricity. You have no waste pickup. You have a confessional system that was based on this French mandate that hasn't worked since the French mandate was put in place in 1946, that everybody refuses to acknowledge, that the Maronites are not in charge, that the Sunnis are not in charge, that the Shias that were a minority are actually in charge. So until Hezbollah, which is 70,000 troops, we don't recognize it. Hezbollah is a foreign terrorist organization in American parlance. I get in trouble every time we go into this discussion, because in Lebanon it's not, right? In Lebanon it's a political party. It has 27 parliamentary seats out of 166 or so in parliament. But Hezbollah is an armed militia separate from the Lebanese armed forces, bigger than the Lebanese armed forces. Lebanese armed forces has been a stable influence.
And what incentive do they have to put their weapons down?
Zero. Zero. I mean, this is the problem, especially when Israel is attacking everybody. So if Israel is attacking Syria, Israel is attacking Lebanon, Israel is attacking Tunisia. As it goes on, their argument gets better and better, is we're here to protect the Lebanese from Israel. Israel has 5 points and is not withdrawing, but Hezbollah is rebuilding. The government has to take the responsibility. It's not our job. What they want Dwight Eisenhower to come. They want President Trump to be Dwight Eisenhower, land these beautiful Marines, and solve it all for them.
And that's not happening.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen anywhere. That's not our job. We're not doing that. We'll usher, we'll give our advice, we'll help, but they've got to solve it. So the Lebanese government, if they want to get back on track, has to say, we're going to disarm Hezbollah. They're scared to death that causes a civil war. Well, no kidding.
And we're talking about the left disarming Hezbollah.
It's the only people who are there. So LAF being mostly Sunnis, there are Shias, and it's a good organization. It's well-meaning, but it's not well-equipped. Because who are they going to fight? Right? We don't want to arm them. We're going to arm them so they can fight Israel? I don't think so. So you're arming them so they can fight their own people, the Hezbollah. Hezbollah is our enemy. Iran is our enemy. We need to cut the heads off of those snakes and chop the flow of funds. That's the only way you're going to stop Hezbollah. You're not going to have LAF go knock on the door of a Shia house in Hezbollah and say, excuse me, ma'am, can I go and take the rockets and AK-47s out of your basement? And if not, I'm going to take you away at gunpoint?
Many Lebanese would say that the United States is just playing the same old, post-colonial game at this point, which is that we nudge them in a certain direction and then leave them. And it happens from administration to administration. How do you respond to that?
I would say the Lebanese, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, because all they do is talk. There's never been one act. We've told them, do you want our help? We'll give you our help. We gave them a playbook. They can't get there.
They can't execute.
No, absolutely not. So we say, fine, we're not going to execute. You know who's going to execute? Walk across that border. Do you see where Jerusalem is? Jerusalem is going to take care of the Hezbollah for you.
And that's what's happening right now.
Absolutely. Because, and we see the intelligence. The Lebanese think Hezbollah is not rebuilding. They're rebuilding. As we talk now, they're rebuilding. And the Lebanese say, well, we just want to cease fire. Well, of course they want to cease fire. Because in that period, Hezbollah, the flow of funds, there's $60 million a month coming from someplace. We need to figure it out. A Hezbollah, let me just give you an example. Let's say you have 25,000 activist troops, Hezbollah troops. You have 70,000 altogether. You probably have 60,000 LAF troops. You have more Hezbollah troops than LAF troops. And a Hezbollah troop makes an average of 1,000 to 2,000 a month. A Lebanese soldier makes 200 to 300 a month. So if you're a Lebanese soldier, you have to be an Uber driver, a barista, and pick up garbage on the weekends in order to fight. In addition to that, Hezbollah also runs the best municipalities. They have water, they have power, they have waste management, because Iran is funding that money. So if you want to get rid of Hezbollah, you choke Iran. The problem is everything is gray market in Lebanon, as you know. So everybody's making some money someplace off the Hezbollah flow of money. So the Lebanese, when they say that it's America's saying, we've been here for 47 years doing the same thing with you, and it's never worked.
So we're done.
We're done. We're no boots on the ground. When I say we're done, we'll always support LAF. Counterterrorism with LAF itself is always of keen import. But us getting more involved is an impossibility because they won't help themselves. So we're not going to go take Hezbollah out with our troops, with CENTCOM. Israel will just continue on. They bomb it daily because Hezbollah's moving rockets, missiles, IRGs. It's crazy.
Al-Shara, walk me through this one, because many would look at this and say, 10 months ago, this guy's on the front lines. Now he's the president. He's in a suit and tie. Can we trust him?
There is no other option. And he's better than that, by the way. So if we talk about trust, quite honestly, in this business, I don't trust any of them. Our interests are not aligned. Ally is a mistaken word. Our interests are not aligned.
With the Syrian regime?
No, with any of them. With any of them in the Middle East.
Including Israel?
Absolutely. Our interests are vectors, right? There's metrics. There's things that we're aligned with, and there's things that we're not aligned with. So there's no unanimity. It's not the United States of Israel. It's not the United States of the Gulf. It's not the United States of Turkey. We find alignment of the necessity of interest, and we bond together. But blind trust on any of them, I don't think anybody's ever had it. It hardly exists amongst our states.
So what does a U.S. security guarantee mean?
Various things, right? I mean, there's various kinds. There's a treaty, there's a security guarantee, there's an alliance, there's all sorts of technical issues.
But if we ask them to host Hamas, and then they do, and then they get hit for it.
Yeah, it means don't blow me up, right?
It isn't a guarantee of anything.
Exactly. So, and we had an implicit security guarantee. And I think if you talk to Qatar, they also had that from Netanyahu, right? This wasn't, these were not groups that were not talking to each other. So we'll never understand that issue. But, you know, if you look at diplomacy, and all of them are much better than me, because I'm not really a diplomat, right? I'm like an event-driven mercenary to get things done for this president. But diplomacy is based on having a longer off-ramp and on-ramp that gets by these events. So you don't react so dramatically to an event. You look at that highway and say, we have to build this highway over time, and I think that's what everybody's responsibly done. But it was a shock to the Gulf, to the Islamic world. It was a shock to the world.
When you look at the way this president is seeing the Middle East, and you look at the trajectory, we talked about the problems that they've had for decades, what do you see getting done by this administration?
Honestly, I think, and I don't mean this politically, I mean it practically, is that I'm just a gardener in a garden, right? So I'm not watching the whole world, and I'm just trying to leave everything a little bit better than we found it on my boss's direction. I think you're going to see things you haven't seen in 80 years. He's going to force this region into a place where they can start farming prosperity. And from the bottom up, I think you're going to see not only peace agreements, but alignment of a lot of these countries that you haven't seen before, that is a larger funnel to the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords were a brilliant idea. President Trump, Jared Kushner had this idea. They implemented it. It was, at the time, quite honestly, I thought it was impossible that you could ever start that planting. For Israel, it's the only answer. They eventually have to go there also.
Do you think that he'll have to walk back this suggestion that there's never going to be a Palestinian state?
No, I don't think they're going to walk it back. I mean, there's what they've said is, this is Israel. You want to be an Israeli, you be an Israeli. That's their position.
But so the world says they won't accept anything less than a two-state solution.
The world's not doing a very good job of implementing or convincing anybody. Right? It has zero effect. So when we say the world, nobody has any skin in the game except Israel and us. So we're befriending, and we have befriended, Islam and the East. And by the way, you have to. If you just look at the demographics, you're going to have, by 2040, 2045, 10 billion people in the world. You're going to have 5 billion Muslims. 5 billion. So are we going to keep pounding from little Israel against 5 billion Muslims?
What is the blowback on the United States? We're talking about the Muslim population exploding in the next decades. What is the blowback from funding Israel's actions in Gaza? I mean, you would agree it's not going to be good.
Look, I think America is divided on that issue, and it will come to fruition. Either there'll be a solution that people say was worth it, or there'll be a solution that wasn't worth it, and people can vote with their feet the next time around.
Tell me, when will you visit Lebanon again?
When they get off their fanny.
When do you anticipate that happening?
I'm not wasting the president's time anymore with rhetoric. We've given them a path. We've told them what the path was. They continually refuse to really honor it or do it. I have great respect for all of them. I know this is a difficult decision. I know they don't want a civil war. There's not going to be a civil war. Hezbollah is at the lowest point in history they've ever been. We'll help them, but if they don't want to help themselves, this president's not going to waste his time and effort. He'll support him. He'll support LAF like we always have, and move on to the next venue.
When you talk about cutting the head off the snake, will there need to be another definitive strike on Iran in order to accomplish that?
Look, I hope the Iranian people are sensational, as we all know. The people. Educated, thoughtful, civilized. I don't want to see them harmed in any way. This regime, we're going into midterms. This regime is so good at just kicking the can down the road. And just wait, because Obama will come again. Obama 2.0, Biden 3.0. And you won't have to deal with a president who actually is driven by action and response. So, what Israel would do is another question. But it seems as though they're marching towards a resolution of the entire problem, which is what Gaza is, right? I would imagine that just getting Gaza under control and Hezbollah under control and the Houthis under control is not fruitful if you don't get the Iran regime under control. I have no information as to what they're going to do, but I wouldn't rule that out.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you for joining us on the record.
Thank you. Great seeing you.